This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
Hello, this is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. Do not text us because we are three separate households. We can't be together. We can't be live. We're not live. However, you can contact us at Frank on the Radio through Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us via the Absolute Radio website. Now, before the show began, we're each in our respective homes. We were talking about Rock the Casbah by The Clash. Am I right, guys?
Yes, you are.
And what was your question again, Emily? Who doesn't like it?
What I actually said, which was a bit obtuse. I said, who is it who doesn't like it? There could be a lot of answers to that question. But I was referring to the lyric, which is something like Shari don't like it, or Sharif, is it?
Could be, because if it's...
Sharif don't like it, something like that.
If it's the Casbah, it could be Sharif, Omar Sharif. Is he involved in it? I think there is a backgammon verse, an international backgammon tournament verse in it. Do you
I miss that about our readers, Frank, that normally we would ask that and they'd tell us, and that makes me sad briefly. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's a fabulous... have you ever heard of Clinton Ford?
No.
He did a thing which they've sort of completely died now. He did comedy songs. And he did a song called The Old Bazaar in Cairo, which I like to think would be on the same family tree as Rock the Casbah. And it had a moment in it I particularly loved that goes, harem, scarum, what do you think of that? Bare knee, striptease, dancing on the mat, umpa, that's enough for that, in the old bazaar in Cairo. And it's the reprimand mid-verse of that's enough for that. I love it. Absolutely love it. The idea the crowd have got excited and started going... Umpa.
I like the idea that's said in a different tone of voice by another character as well.
It'd be good, wouldn't it? Sort of Arab-themed pop songs. That's two.
Yes. Excuse
Midnight
my
at the
ignorance.
Oasis, Maria Muldaur.
Oh, yes. Excuse my ignorance, boys, but what is a Sharif?
Well, we used to have a Sharif, but things got pretty tough in this town. Well, they generally don't come back. A Sharif, no, I was thinking of Omar Sharif. Is it?
I see.
Is it? And it's not a noun, is it?
I don't know. Well,
I don't know.
Please let us know anyway. We won't, we'll wait
I wish
until
we
next
was
week.
live. Life was so much easier when we were live. We'd ask a question like that, and our readers, who were super smart, generally speaking, would be on it like a dog on a rabbit.
Let's not start a 3-hour show on quite such a regretful note.
No, you're right.
No, you're stuck with us thickos, I'm afraid. Never mind.
Let's look on there. I'll tell you what, I've got a bad back, and if there's one thing that drags me down, it's a bad back. And I'll tell you, I got it. I am still doing the Joe Wicks PE class thing every weekday morning, and I was doing it this.
Send you a more suitable exercise regime.
Well, it was going great. It's been a life changer, Joe Wicks, but he does this thing called the dot walk, when you have to walk around with your knees very, very close to the floor. Like a sort of extreme version of the Groucho Marx walk. And
that's arousing for Kath.
Yeah, well, she's doing it as well, remember? me, Kath and Buzz do it together, so we're all walking around like that.
Cute.
But he was doing a Wheel of Fortune thing, so he spins it, and that tells you what exercise to do. And because the dot walks a few of them came close together, he started improvising, and he suggested that we went right down and just jumped up and down whilst remaining... knees 6 inches from the floor. And that did I just felt it go. It was a terrible moment. So thanks for that, Joe. Don't improvise, Joe. Just, write the thing up and go for it. Let's see your homework, mate. not your hunches. So I'm in some pain. I'll be straight with you. But I won't be straight. I'll be hunched. I'm keeping a low profile. Literally.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
I'll tell you something. I started on a neg note, which I'm sorry about now, about the show not being live. But we do still hear from our loyal readers, so that's tremendous news. Keep the stuff coming in. What's in the current batch?
We've had some good ones, Al, haven't we? We've had... Do you remember you were asking last week, Frank, whether anyone had any Frank Skinner merchandise?
Yes, because I've got a box full, which obviously I can't really wear without it.
But you are head to foot in John Bishop outfits quite a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm all right with the John Bishop merch because that makes me look humble.
Well,
wearing myself makes me look like I'm hungry to be recognised.
Appearances are key.
It's
We've
sad,
had some
but
good
true.
ones, Al, haven't we? We've had David Green. Here you go, Frank. Dad, in brackets, Ron Green Cameras, enjoyed working on many shows with you. All the best. And he's got a Frank Skinner bomber jacket and 3 T-shirts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimey. Do you think he ever wears them? I'm guessing I can see the dog now nestled on that bomber jacket in a basket.
They look box fresh, actually. They look in good condition, wouldn't you say?
Oh, he
Al?
sent a picture as well.
I sent a picture.
Very nice.
That's Ron Green.
Ron Green. And then
We're on our way.
Peter Rawlinson says, not merch related exactly, but when I worked in a shoe shop years ago, a lady came in with a gift voucher and asked if I could void it, swap it for a new one, but could she keep the old one? I asked why. She'd met you somewhere, and that was all she had to get your autograph on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course I remember signing. I don't. I'll tell you something. I had a table football, like a proper professional pub-sized table football thing. And I was one of the players on it. I was at centre forward on one team. And all the other players were guests from a series of the chat show I used to do. So there was like Kenny Rogers in midfield, Jermaine Greer, central defence, and stuff like that. And I also had a pinball machine that the whole design was me and another series I'd done. So I had like a Jamie Lee Curtis and stuff on it. And when Kath moved in, I thought, they're a bit laddish, these. So I got rid of them. And I wonder where... that was a terrible error.
Yeah, wasn't it?
It was. And I wonder where they are now.
Oh, these we have
Irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Well, Linford Walker has messaged saying, I have a mug and a pencil. The pencil is in my toolbox somewhere. The mug has only just resurfaced from the back of the cupboard, as my daughter has reached the age I wish her to see such an awesome joke. And then adds in brackets, she's 45. So I'm very curious as to how blue the jokes on your merchandise mug
obviously,
were.
I can't tell you on air what that joke was.
Well, I think I've seen the joke and it's unbelievable.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be offended by it.
I mean, would it put you off your tea if it was in there?
Put me off my life, Al.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. That would it put you off your tea? No, but it. No,
I like
certainly not.
the fact that at age 41 she still wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
At the age of 37. Sorry, I'm very whimsical today.
Okay.
Aren't you?
Do you know that song?
Yes, I do know
The
that.
Eyes of Lucy Jordan. Very, very lovely. Anyway, that's not what we're going to play for you in a minute. But you know what? The playlist has been wrested from my grip. Who knows what's on it at the moment? I'm guessing Sex on Fire, but we'll see.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I've been hammering my Kindle a bit just lately. I sort of have periods when I don't really want the Kindle. I want a real book in my hand. But there's something nice about being in a totally dark room with just a tiny pool of light that you're reading from. I know that can happen with a real book, but anyway, so I've been, buying some stuff on Kindle because the bookshops are shut, and I miss that. And then I don't know if you're Kindle users, you guys, but
yes.
they offer you recommendations based on what you've been reading.
Right.
And I was in the column entitled Kindle Top Picks for You.
There we go, Mein Kampf.
Which is a fabulous piece of tailoring. Now they'll know I wouldn't want to read that again. Is my own autobiography came
Oh,
up.
that's nice.
Oh, that's nice.
That's an interesting piece of profiling they've done there.
Yeah.
They really have. They've got it down to basically one person. So I was quite thrilled by that. And then I saw 4 stars.
Oh.
What a sickener. I mean, even in my own home, do I want critics coming into my own home and rubbing my nose in it?
How many stars did you get for your podcast in the Times, I think it was?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but
How many?
I got 5. But
Okay.
I thought the 5-star review, as you almost never see a 5-star review, certainly not for my stuff. It's like you don't. It's like they don't do it anymore. That it's regarded as a bit lowbrow to give 5 stars because nothing's perfect in life.
Yes. I think it feels quite broad to get the 5-star, is something I've always said to reassure myself.
Yeah, you think it's like I've always imagined in my many daydream fantasies. I've got one where I'm an international batsman for England, and I mean I'm not making this is a thing that I've spent hours living in my mind, and one of my things is that I don't hit sixes because I find them rather brutish.
Oh, yeah.
I only hit 4s.
They're a bit vulgar for you.
Yeah, and I think maybe you could see 5 stars in that sort of thing. That's a bit, oh dear, a bit too much. You know what I mean? It lacks nuance. So that was.
It's so well realised, your fantasy character, what you would and wouldn't do in certain situations. I love this.
Yeah, and I score mainly in 2s and singles in this daydream because I can, because I don't want. I once read that Thierry Henry, the former Arsenal striker, at one point in his career decided that making goals was a more creative thing than scoring them, and started focusing on that for a bit. And I love that.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's when... the French. You got to love them. Can you imagine an English... Can you imagine Troy Deeney thinking that? Thinking, you know what? Oh, man. But what a great idea. I love the whole concept of it. It's like me, if I decided to just write feeds to jokes, put them on the internet for young comics to give them a little ramp.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that.
I'm there.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Emily was just saying, actually, that it's, if you don't mind me quoting something you've said off air, obviously I'm selective, that it's impossible to say no after you without it seeming... What was your term that seemed ironic?
I said it's impossible to say it without it sounding incredibly insincere.
Yes. A term I've heard commentators use in football commentary is that if someone sort of slightly defers to someone else in a challenge, they say, oh, that was a bit after you, Claude.
Oh, really?
I really like that. The Claude bit of it, which makes it so sort of prissy and posh as to somehow lack masculinity. That's how I...
It's the equivalent of the slightly tetchy email followed by a thanks and then just the name. Oh, I feel sick when I get that.
Can I... I've been watching a lot of Bugs Bunny during lockdown. When I say a lot, I can tell you just from
Well,
the
that's not
numbering...
depressing.
the numbering system on demand that I've watched 147 Bugs Bunny cartoons. They're all about 6 minutes. Yeah.
It's a decent snooker break as well.
It is. And
That is the most Alan thing I've ever heard said.
they call it the Bugs Bunny, don't they? 147.
Yes, I think so.
I don't think they do.
Do you observe my rule, Frank, re cartoons, which is that you just simply cannot watch them after 7 p.m. at night because that's awful. It's so depressing.
Well, it depends on the cartoon, of course. David Baddiel has recently introduced me to BoJack Horseman, which I don't feel you can watch before 11 o'clock at night.
Which I like, actually.
But Bugs Bunny, you know what? Bugs Bunny, can I say, is absolutely brilliant. And yes, it's a late review.
It really is.
But I don't think I've ever completely understood how brilliant. I think Bugs Bunny sums up everything that's positive about the American spirit.
Oh, why's that?
He's sort of a bit cocky, he's inventive, he endures, he's fearless, unflappable. It's brilliant. But my son, who's now 8, as of last Saturday, said to me, is he the king of Looney Tunes? And I said, you know what? I think he is. I think he is the king of Looney Tunes. I think when people think of those, that's who they think of. Mm-hmm. And he said, so who's the queen of Looney Tunes? You know, it had never occurred to me before that there isn't. Is there a female star in Looney Tunes?
No, I don't think there is.
I mean, I suppose Roadrunner could be. Would
Well,
we
I
know
think
if Roadrunner...
it says a lot that the only one I know is Granny, if you're familiar with her. She's sort of, she's in Tweety Pie's storylines.
Oh, of course, yeah.
She has a bun and a sort of Edwardian brooch at her neck, is all I can remember.
But you get quite a bit in Bugs Bunny of what I believe they used to call cheesecake. In that you'll get a woman, like in a 50s style woman in a bikini, used to sort of stop him being chased by a brutish workman or something like that. Oh, that was my
Whose phone
doorbell.
is that?
That's my doorbell. I'm sorry. I'm anticipating the delivery of a plum tree.
That's nice.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So, I think I interrupted a fabulous flow of outside world correspondence. Is there
No, I
more? There's
More
more.
accurately, you left us, your cohorts, and the readership of the show wondering if you had or had not been delivered a plum tree.
Yes, the doorbell, Frank.
No.
yet.
That is what I say if I've got guests and the doorbell goes.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think it might be from a Joe Orton play.
Oh, I genuinely thought you were about to get
No,
a delivery of a plum.
I can't remember where it came from, but I've said it for many years if the doorbell goes and I have guests.
Now I feel a great fool because I'm anticipating some meat being delivered whilst I'm recording this show with you guys.
Yeah, but I believe that.
Yeah,
I
I
imagine
so
you
believe
have
that.
raw meat fed through your cat flap every day, which drops into your gaping mouth.
that was a secret.
Is that wrong?
I told you not to discuss it in a public domain.
What I see is you doing sit-ups, and every time you go back, you're doing them by the door. A piece of raw steak or something comes in, which you seize upon and then go up into another gut-crunching
Yes.
sit-up.
How do
So
you
when
know
I
these
see-
things? How do you know these things about me? You got the place spy-cammed.
I'm glad you followed that up, Al, because that was what I believe is referred to as a Chekhov's gun moment, where it was
it?
introduced and it had to go off.
Yeah.
I'm calling it the Frank's doorbell moment in future. Okay.
Okay.
We've had some, there's a variety of methods in which they've contacted us, but we've had some tweets in regarding alternative bookmarks. Do you remember on last week's show, Frank, you were talking about what you used as a bookmark?
Yes, I used a banana at one point.
Yes.
I try to use apposite bookmarks. So, par exemple, if I go to an exhibition let's say, of David Hockney, and I then read an art book, I might use the ticket stub for that. This is a thing I got into.
I thought you were going to say a cigarette, because I know he's quite a fan of the old fags, isn't he? Like smoking,
really
David Hockney. Yeah.
He really loves it.
Well, interestingly, we've had a tweet in, Al, didn't we? Someone who does exactly the same thing. RTM says, I marked a page in Andre Agassi's autobiography with a broken string from my racket. Apposite or what?
Oh, brilliant.
That's good.
Oh, it's even better than brilliant. I'd say it's ace.
I mean,
love that.
Oh, I say love.
No.
That is the book, isn't it, where he said that when he was a baby, his dad hung a small tennis ball over his cot and secured a tiny tennis racket to his hand to get him from the. I mean, he's still got a little bit of placenta on him, and he was already hitting tennis balls.
Yes.
That was also the book, Frank, in which he said, I think he lost one of the Grand Slams because he was so worried about his hairpiece, bless him, falling off.
I own that book.
He lost a Grand Slam final as a result of that. It's terribly sad.
He should. It sounds good, I must say. I remember I was on a sort of a pilot for a sports panel show. Mm-hmm. And they read that extract from Agassi's book about the tennis racket and the tennis ball over his cot. Mm. And it was a time when Mario Balotelli was having a bad patch, and I suggested, I had to quote my own jokes, that his dad suspended a cow's behind from above his cot and strapped a small banjo to his hand. Very good. It went well, but not well enough to get a series. Good night.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
Hello, this is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Ellie Dean and Alan Cochrane. You cannot text the show today because we're not live, I'm afraid. Circumstances. But you can contact us at Frank on the Radio on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us via the Absolute Radio website.
I like that because you called me Ellie Dean.
Yes.
And what I felt younger. Yeah, I think it was anti-aging. It shaved about 15 years off me. It's quite a millennial name.
And also it's got a bit of, there's an old mill by the stream, LED.
Yeah. I might make that my name. No, I loved it.
I had no idea. What I should have done is that thing, when you say to people, "Oh, you actually said LED," and you didn't say, and they say, "No, I didn't." And you think, why are you arguing with this? Why would I make that up? People get really, no, I didn't say that. What are you talking about? Oh.
I like it when they say it on shows like Big Brother and the Love Island, and you just think, well, I'm afraid there's an easy way of finding out, dear.
So, outside world.
We were discussing bookmarks and specifically things that weren't bookmarks being used as bookmarks. And Judith Clemens has sent us this. I'm using a Mongolian 20 Turig banknote as a bookmark. I might have mispronounced Turig.
Blimey, I've got a book at my feet as we speak, which has got a Korean banknote in it.
She says it's worth about 5 pence.
Yes,
and it's left over
from
a trip through Mongolia in 2007. Used it as a bookmark.
I guess if she'd have said it's left over from a trip, my first guess would have been Mongolia.
And she says, greetings from a Tasmanian reader. I think that's an excellent missive from her. She's really not...
only normally hear from the Devils. Yeah.
That's interesting. One, because obviously I've seen a lot of the Tasmanian Devil just lately in the Bugs Bunnies, but also...
Of course.
I'm lucky enough to be invited into the Thorne family Pointless. Now, Now, the Thorne family is my brother-in-law's
Oh, yes.
brood, and they have a Zoom version of Pointless once every couple of weeks,
That's nice.
hosted by Big Daddy Thorne, Mike, and we all take part in that. And this week, one of the questions was about an island, blah blah blah, Australia, and the Dutch explorer Tasman, who found Tasmania. I was very very pleased with myself. Scored, I think, 68.
That's all right.
Nightmare.
Oh.
We've also heard from Sam Levin, who says, my son uses the broken blade of his fencing sabre. That's quite a bookmark.
Wow, we.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear my dog barking?
I can't. Doesn't he? Doesn't he always do that when anyone mentions fencing sabres?
He's
He's been trained.
It's very likely that some meat is being pushed through the letterbox.
He grew up in a 1920s German army training camp where fencing scars were the order of the day, and he still reacts angrily to the very mention of it. I remember doing a gig where I spoke to there's a mother and a teenage boy in the audience, and I started speaking to the teenage boy, and I said, "What's he like? Blah blah blah. Is he just lay around the house?" And she said, "No, he's got hobbies. He does fencing." And I went off the stage pre-encore, and I noticed backstage, tucked away in a corner, was a fencing mask. So I went back on in it, and oh God, if only life could always be like that.
Oh, yeah.
It brought the house down. No real jokes required.
Yeah.
If only I could recreate that kind of forgiveness.
Nigel Holmes, by the way, Frank, is re-alternative bookmarks. I'm one of those annoying turn down the corner people.
Oh, no.
No?
Nigel, don't do that. That paper
fine.
never recovers. That leaves a scar.
Live a
And when
little.
I'm reading, I don't want to know where other people have stopped.
Don't say, Nigel, don't do that in front of Alan.
No. Why?
Nigel Farage. That's...
We'll leave it there.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
There has been news, hasn't there, this week, apart from obviously terrible news.
Wow. I think we need to talk about the Rose Garden boys. I mean, I assume you boys were both gathered round the TV at 4 p.m. on Bank Holiday Monday.
You know what?
The press conference.
I did watch it live. The Dominic Cummings thing.
I listened to it on the radio and saw clips of it later. So
The abdication.
I like the radio for news because I can potter about in the kitchen at the same time.
Yeah.
There was in a list of things that seems to have I've stopped everything for like that on the telly, and there aren't many. I mean, I'm not counting sport and stuff, but like news things. Mm-hmm. I remember working doing a TV thing, but we're in an office, like a production office with about 20 people, and everything stopped for the O.J. Simpson verdict.
Oh,
everyone gathered around the.
Yes.
Incredible now, really. Can't think of another court case where that would have happened. But
yeah.
Anyway, yes, I.
He was late. We say 4 p.m, but
4:30.
It was at 4:30 in the end.
And people have said that he didn't give the press the apology that they wanted. But can I just make it clear that he did give them an apology because his first words were, "Hello, sorry I'm late, everyone." So,
oh, did he say that?
So he is a man capable of apologising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he say why he was late?
He didn't know.
That's what I like, though, is that because of the sort of weirdness and formality of it, in real life, someone would come in and say, "I'm so sorry. I was doing the shopping at Tesco and then, I got caught up." And there's no excuse offered. He should have done that. He should have given some excuse.
He should have come in and said, "Look, you all know, you all suspect I'm an evil genius. The truth is I got really lost in a very difficult Sudoku. And now here we are."
Well, my theory, Al, was that he was giving the tracksuit bottoms just a little airing in the tumble dryer, just the 10-minute with a Febreze sheet.
Did he have tracksuit bottoms on?
I
He
wanted
does wear
him to
them a
have
lot.
tracksuit bottoms, but he had the crumpled physics professor shirt with the
I was
sleeves rolled up.
disappointed by the white linen shirt because I thought, whenever you see him in the paper, Dominic Cummings, he's got a hoodie on and stuff. And I thought it'd look like one of those family conferences with the teenage boy who's done something a bit bad and everyone's gathered around to talk about it as a family, and he'd be sitting there sulkily in a hooded top, not trying to join in. And I didn't want him to make an effort, but I thought the white linen shirt was a bit of a, I better make an effort.
It was,
Of course, that could have been the half hour, him desperately trying to find a shirt.
Yep.
well, I think it was very Headmaster's Day Off, wasn't it, that shirt? The concession to being casual is rolling the sleeves up twice and maybe not ironing it. But fair enough, he at least he made the effort. What did you think of the table, most importantly? Because that's the thing that I'd like to talk about.
Well, I was obviously profoundly envious because we don't have a table at our house. We had one, and then Kath decided she didn't want it, so she sold it to somebody, and then we replaced it with a thing that you paste wallpaper on, and then even that's gone. And we were supposed to have one delivered, but lockdown thought we don't want them to just bring a big coronavirus surface into the house.
Uh-huh.
So we haven't had a table for 3 months. And just any table now I look at longingly. And ironically, the only table we own as a family was in the garden, and that ringing doorbell was a man coming to take it away. I know. It wasn't my idea. We've had to pay him to do it. I mean, I despair.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Why did he take the table, Frank?
Oh, the man who just came to take the table. We have a table in the garden, which I've always loved, which is a big, heavy, like a stone circle with a mosaic on the surface. And Kath has always said, Kath, my partner, that it's heavy, and if it fell off, it could really hurt someone. Now, I don't know how it could possibly fall off, that it's, its legs. But anyway, she's gone on and on about this so much that I've basically given up and paid someone to take it away. That is the answer.
The table phobia is interesting. I'll have to discuss this.
No,
with
I want a table.
No, she has a table phobia.
Yeah, Kathy's removing all tables from the house.
I hope no listeners are playing a drinking game where they have to scull a shot on the word table this week. Cause
Yes.
I do feel like
we
we've used
basically we eat out of those shoulder display things that people sell ice cream from at theatres. We have one of those each with our meal and everything in it, and we stand and eat from that.
She bans it. Buzz learns his times blank. No mention of Table Mountain.
Buzz eats his meals off a chair next to the sofa. I mean,
Lovely.
I don't understand.
I think
Anyway.
you could treat yourself to a table during lockdown.
Yeah, but we don't want them to bring coronavirus into the house.
But yet you bought George Formby's prayer book.
Yeah, but he won't
Great
be on
point,
there.
Al.
He died
Great
in
point.
the early 60s.
But somebody still
It
has to
might
bring
have
it.
it might have a
something
bit
else.
of rickets. Bit of rickets on page 7.
True.
Might have death of a broken heart if it goes back further. But you know what I was going to say? I noticed that the
He didn't die of a
table.
broken heart.
Oh, I know, but that was
Go
an
on.
old school thing to do, ailment, I would say.
It was.
Fatal ailment. He had the table, Frank, which was very face painting at a fate. And
Yes.
yet he also had the chairs. That's what bothered me. Have some consistency. The chairs were sort of Palace of Versailles level of
I didn't
ornateness with a
notice
gold edging and a sort of red velvet seating. Did you see that, Al?
They never took the time to describe those on the radio version.
Oh, yeah.
What you want is that bloke I was on about the other week who's the royal correspondent who would say in a hushed voice, and the red velvet chairs removed from the gladiatorial chamber at number 10. All that stuff. Shut up with your gravity about trivial matters, you old fool. That's what I wish would interrupt. He wasn't mega mind enough for me. I like the idea of there being a genius, evil or otherwise, at the centre of government.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to do the conference whilst beating 10 people at chess simultaneously. I wanted a real show of intelligence, because he's sort of Lex Luthor, isn't he? I didn't want... When they said he was half an hour, what I wanted was to be watching a normal TV show and then to be like a fuzz of static and for him up here looking straight into citizens of Earth. I really wanted that. It was, the Rose Garden was way too sweet and lovely. But it was... And
the Rose Garden, it's very sort of country and western, wasn't it? It's a strange name for the a press conference which is that tense.
It was a nice day for it, though. And of course, they have come out with, it's safer outside than inside. A catchphrase I've used for some 30 years. And so I suppose it tied into that.
Frank Skinner. Absolute Radio.
I'll tell you what I did enjoy about the Dominic Cummings thing is obviously there's been a tremendous amount of fuss that he supposedly drove for half an hour to nearby beauty spot Barnard Castle to see if his eyesight was all right.
Yes.
I wish he'd worn elaborate steampunk goggles for the press conference. Like a real Mr. Magoo. If he'd come in and walked into the table and stuff like that, really hammed it up. Well, I went to wherever. Yeah, and all that stuff. But Boris Johnson... then I think, obviously, to sort of back up the idea that COVID-19 can affect your eyesight, appeared in public in spectacles and said, he said, he's right about the COVID-19. He said, I quote, "I'm having to wear spectacles for the first time in years." And I thought, well, what happened? Did his eyes get better? He was short-sighted and then they got better. Can that happen with eyes?
Yes.
It's like, does it ebb and flow, short-sight?
That's a very good question.
Did he produce the spectacles from his top pocket? I can't remember, BJ. Did he produce them or did he wear them as he...
No, I thought he actually looked quite good in them. I thought they were... He's the spectacles kind of a guy, as it turns out.
No, but Frank, he should have gone for some more Gregory Peck ones. He went for the sort of IT solutions ones. Well,
that's because his eyesight used to be bad and then it went brilliant. So they're probably from the 80s, from when his eyesight was at that bad patch of
they're the sort of glasses
sight
that cricketers wear when they retire. I just don't like them.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I can see David Gower in them.
Yeah.
It's a shame they weren't really bright like Elton John kind of peacocky ones.
But yeah, that's what Dominic Cummings could have worn, like Dennis Taylor. Giant ones.
If I was them, I would start doing that. If we were the cabinet, we would start doing that. We'd do every appearance. Like I'd have some of those, those New Year 2000 glasses. I've had some of those with the O's either side. That's what I do.
Boris Johnson's funny, isn't he? He'd be he must be tempted to wear some of those eyeballs on springs for work.
Oh, yeah. You see, I don't know if Dominic Cummings is a comedy guy.
No.
So you can't wear those when you're announcing the fatalities.
He's written the script. If he'd have been holding that like at arm's length and bringing it in again, trying to read it, because his eyesight had gone. But I don't think he's got that in him.
He should have done a joke. He could have thrown a small one in there. He would have won us round instantly, wouldn't he?
So, how did you think it went for him?
I think actually it didn't go that well for the media at certain points, because at one point somebody said about this trip to Castle Bernard, and I thought, no, it's Barnard Castle. I know you're in a London bubble, but and then somebody else somebody said afterwards, I mean, he says that he drove to Durham. Can you drive to Durham and back? Can you drive over 500 miles in one tank of fuel? And I thought, yeah, you can on lots of cars. You can.
Yeah, well, I think he drives a Discovery. I imagine that's a big tank, isn't it? Wouldn't you have thought?
This is exactly how I hoped the whole press conference would descend, just into a really long car chat.
Also, there's probably a hotline where he could get a fuel tanker to pull up alongside him in the middle lane, and they could fuel like on the International Space Station.
Yeah,
they could have fueled him on the way rather than him stop off and corrupt to leave COVID on the cover of a hardcover book about Princess Diana at a service station.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So we were discussing the Rose Garden conference with Dominic Cummings. Did anyone use the headline Cummings and Goings during any of this?
I think everyone did, didn't they?
Did they? Okay.
Don't ruin his
if
little
he'd
moment,
resigned,
Al.
they definitely would have, wouldn't they?
I think so.
I wonder. The one thing I wondered what you thought of this. Do you think that when someone reads the truth out from a piece of paper, it slightly undermines them? Because I just feel, had he learnt it off by heart or committed it to memory, had he gone off book, I think it might have been. I think it might have done him some favours. Discuss.
Well, he started off, didn't he, by saying, I haven't done telly for a very long time.
Did he really
Say that?
He did say that.
Tell me about it, dear.
Or was that me? Was that me who said that when I was watching it? No, I think it was him. I'm pretty sure he said that. And I thought, I didn't know he used to do telly. Did you do telly? What were you, a Harry Hill stunt double? No, I didn't know he did telly at all. I'd love to find he did something like a kids show or something like that. He was in the broom cupboard.
We'd all just forgotten he was on Celebrity Squares every week.
I'll tell you something which has struck me about it, which there's a theory, and this is where obviously he becomes a bad guy if this kind of happens, is that some people think that because people don't believe his story, basically, and they think that what will happen is that the public, the British public, as they're called, that they will think, oh, well, if there's one rule for them and one rule for us, we won't do lockdown anymore. And there'll be a terrible second wave and thousands of extra deaths. That's the theory, I think. And the papers, certainly, The Guardian and the Mirror, who got the story, certainly believe it. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying his story is true or isn't true, or if that thing could happen. But if you worked at a newspaper and someone said, look, if we print this story, it could lead to thousands of deaths of innocent people, would you print the story?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I just wanted to sort that out.
But
Sorry,
I suppose
I don't think it was rhetorical. I thought you were asking.
I was asking.
What about you, Emily? Yes or no?
I would suggest that the need to print the story is because it's kind of a historical crime or oversight or whatever you want to call it, isn't it? So because lockdown is easing anyway, the main issue is that he did this while others made sacrifices.
Well, I think you've got to wait probably till the virus
You
is
think
more
I've
or
got to
less
wait?
gone.
How dare you?
Yeah, before you come out with that.
A long wait, though.
It's just, I just imagine someone sitting saying, well, we'll sell loads more papers. Yeah, but what about all those? Oh, God, it'll be fine. Be fine. Let's sell the papers. I don't know if it's true or not, but You know,
One
if I
thing
knew
I-
a rumour that I was going to... If I had some gossip that I thought would lead to people behaving in a reckless, dangerous way, I think I'd keep it to myself.
Sounds like
That's
good
the kind of
gossip,
guy
that.
I am.
Did you like it, guys, when he said the way he read out? I hated it when the reporters had to go up for their big moment to ask their question behind the mic.
Oh,
And
God,
I-
that was...
I
power
found the
structure.
way he, well, Frank, the way he read out the names in a slightly wearisome way, I thought it was a bit like when a vice chancellor has to give out a third class degree. He went Jason Groves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that reminds me of when at Birmingham Polytechnic I got a degree from the head of the gas board.
Congratulations.
I mean, he gave, I didn't get it from... He handed it to me. He didn't actually officially award it. That would have been ridiculous. Yeah, for my work in the Cala section of the industry.
You've done a lot for boilers, Frank.
Oh, I certainly have over the years. But fair enough, they've done a lot for me.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. You cannot text the show today because we're not live, I'm afraid, but you can follow the show at Frank on the Radio on Twitter and on Instagram, or you can email us via the Absolute Radio website. So we urge you to do that, and then we'll read stuff out next week, we promise. We were talking about Dominic Cummings and all that before the break, and
Cummings
it reminded
and
me. Yeah, there was I caught a bit of loose women this week, and one of the women on there recommended that you a sort of anti-blister thing that she used for her shoes. You know, there's a sort of a... I mean, I don't know if this fits the bill with you, Emily, but I've been out with women who feel that
Congratulations.
bleeding and blistered feet is just part of life. That,
Yeah.
you know, what,
It's a tax you have to pay.
She was talking about this blister thing, and one of the other women, her view was that you have to let shoes shape to your feet, I think was her theory. And so you have to endure. Don't put anything in the way. Let them get used to your feet, and then they'll be comfortable. Now, I don't know if I've ever said this to you before. I have a theory that if you have a pair of shoes that are uncomfortable, they remain uncomfortable forever. And nothing... The whole notion of breaking in, I think, is a complete myth of breaking in shoes.
Can I
Discuss.
say, you're absolutely right. However, I do have some fashion stylist tips I picked up during my years in the fashion industry. And it did work for me on one occasion when I was going to, it was the Ross's Halloween party, and I was dressed as Dorothy, and I had some glittery red shoes, which were half a size too small.
I remember that outfit.
Fabulous.
Did you
You
get
know what
them
I did?
stretched?
I took the fashion director's advice. No, I put a hairdryer on them. The heat, and then I prized them. I prized the back whilst the heat was being applied to it to soften them. And it worked. Thank you.
The trouble is, didn't that slightly muffle the heel clicking that one has to do in Dorothy shoes? You don't want to go, and so let's go. You don't want to... And you're off.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I think you're... It's a bit like Boris Johnson's eyesight. I think, I don't believe that it goes away and comes back like that. Have you ever had a pair of shoes that you've broken in, Al, ever?
Not that I can think of, now that you mention it.
It's a thing that people selling you stuff in shoe shops tells you, that I'll wear them for a bit and they'll... Okay, if when you get a biro that becomes intermittent, one of my most frustrating things. So you have to keep scribbling on another page to get it right in again. Oh, they never recover, in my experience. Once that's happened once,
Like
bin it.
triage.
Yeah, they don't come back. They don't regain their flow.
Is it
those
true that when
biros.
that happens to you, you just throw it straight in the bin and return to your diamond-encrusted Peerless 125 pen?
Oh,
Well,
he loves the Peerless, Al.
I have, in recent years, started throwing them straight in the bin as soon as they do that, as soon as they lose their flow.
Do you know what would completely put me off someone? Gather round. Is if I saw
Go
a
on.
biro in their pen pot, or otherwise displayed, where the plastic was broken. You know, the jagged edge of the biro,
Oh, yeah.
with the ink still sticking
they've
out,
chewed it.
the tube sticking out slightly at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Sickening.
What about occasionally not since I live in the sophisticated metropolis, but certainly when I lived back home in the West Midlands, I would see people who had just the refill. They were writing
Oh, yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, it's not easy. That you need a vice-like grip.
That's why I do a lot of strength training.
But it's quite handy if you're writing in conditions where something is moving across the paper on a regular. Say if you're just going under the door of a toilet cubicle,
Yeah.
the pen will catch on the top, and it won't really have any. I don't know if you ever write when you're going into a
not
toilet
me.
cubicle without opening the door, but I do it a lot. I think it's good to have notes in case there's some sort
So when
of
I do my Chris Moyles
legal
toilet
action.
book, I do, yes.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
There was something I wanted to ask you, actually, Emily, although I'm very happy if Al's got any thoughts. But one thing that we heard a lot this week was the term beauty spot, mainly aimed at Barnard Castle. But there used to be a thing in my childhood where women would put beauty spots on their face with some sort of makeup pen. And I think the theory was that women, I don't think it applied to men, beautiful women had a God-given spot around their chin, which was it's sort of like a hallmark, instead of with gold, with beauty. And so women who thought they were not quite there, but, in the 1, 2, 3, as it were,
Okay.
they would add one to
Yes.
suggest that God had given them the beauty approval.
You'd had the
Are you
kiss
aware
from
of this?
God.
Are you aware of this phenomenon?
Well, I associate it very much with, I suppose, the sort of French aristocracy pre-revolution.
Yeah.
You know, sort of Madame Pompadour, that sort of era.
La liaisons
Oh, yes.
dangereux.
Yes. And also quite sort of Congreve, would you say? Absolute Radio.
Did Marilyn Monroe have one?
Marilyn Monroe had one. I believe Sophia Loren had one. Madonna had one. I don't know whether hers was genuine.
yeah.
And my godmother,
What?
who you're familiar with, Lindsay DePaul.
Oh, yes. Oh, she had a good one.
She had a good one. Hers was a chickenpox
I thought
scar,
that
she
was a
told me.
personal microphone. It was what, sorry? A chickenpox scar.
She told me it was a chickenpox scar. She painted it with eyeliner.
You see, I
like that.
never want to go behind the scenes in showbiz like that.
Oh,
That's
sorry
like
about
Darren
that.
Brown telling me how he does it. But is there any... Obviously, it can't be true, but I honestly think it was believed that if you had one of those spots naturally,
Yes.
that meant that you'd passed that you'd been stamped by the beauty examiner.
Yes, like
when
Cindy
you left the
Crawford.
production line.
Yes. Well, the other example of that I've heard is the longer second toe on women. Are you familiar with that? Rumour?
The second toe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
That's a sign
that's
of
a beauty sign.
beauty, apparently. So check your women's toes out.
Yeah, my view is basically I'll be the judge of that. Is I think my own approach. I don't want to be dictated to even by some sort of heavenly messenger. Who's there must be some rancid people who have them as well. Surely.
Yeah.
I could.
What,
be
the
wrong.
beauty mark?
Yeah. Anyway, if you know anyone, send
Any
those on.
rancid people with beauty marks? Text in.
Do people still? I've got an idea it might be a burlesque affectation that those sort of, those sort of women who have tattoos of dice and skulls and I think they might do it.
Well, the very large, traditionally, I think in the olden days, as I like to refer to any historical period, they were made of fabric, silk, and they were stuck on the face.
Shut up.
Really?
I believe so.
Well, that and what you've done now is you've stopped the whole flow of that. I mean, that is such a shocker. If we were walking, you and I, in that conversation, I would have stopped there and looked at you. You would have walked on a little bit, realised I'd stop, and I'd still be staring in amazement. That's
Good
where we are.
I think.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Anyway, I'm flicking the switch that turns me from a transmitter into a receiver and asking you guys what's been coming in from the outside world.
Well, last week we were talking, and you brought up pottery heads, kind of ceramic faces.
Oh, yeah, highly detailed pottery heads, which were on many, many working class walls in the late 60s and the 1970s. I've got Laurel and Hardy, but often it was a sort of a generic, like a pirate, a nasty-looking line.
I don't think I quite know what you mean. I know.
Well,
is it? Go on, Al.
369 has texted, "Morning, Frank. The pottery heads you refer to are made by Bossons, Bossons, and are very collectible. They should be marked with the Bossons stamp in the back. I'll give you a couple of quid each," says John in London. And I thought maybe it would be good for you to know that they were collectible, Frank, and you should check the back
I like
of your...
that they're collectible, and
Collectible.
he'll give me a couple of quid each for them. A couple of quid each, isn't that from Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I couldn't part with them because they were bought for me by my dear old mom, and not only were they bought, but I have got a club card. Get this, where she bought them from a shop for 25 pence a week until she'd paid the £1.50, which is so tragic in many ways, but also quite marvellous. So I couldn't. I'm going to check for the Bostons.
Can I actually say that I find that not? I know what you mean by that, because I presume what you're thinking is I would love to have been able to just buy that for her outright. However, the delayed gratification, I would say, is a very valuable quality she obviously had, which you've inherited, and it's stood you in good stead. Thank you very much for your time this week.
Oh, I enjoyed that moment.
On the subject of, they're not quite gargoyle-y. I've seen them. They're very detailed. Some of them are like cowboys, some pirates, that sort of thing. They're really interesting looking. But I think possibly the highlight of lockdown for me was when I was having a conversation with my wife and I mentioned the French provocative novelist Michel Houellebecq, spelled Houellebecq. And she said, "Oh, what does he look like?" And I Google image searched him, and let me say this: he is a man who makes no attempt to please the camera. And I showed her some of the photos of Michel Houellebecq in public, and I laughed my head off because he turns up to things with his hair as straggly as it is and like a crazy holding of a cigarette in a weird way, and it was so much fun. So that's worth a couple of minutes of your time there.
I'll tell you what I like is that you're looking at pictures of Michel Houellebecq, whereas Frank is watching Bugs Bunny and Loose Women. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and you're talking to your partner about provocative French novelists, whereas I'm saying, no, not another table. I'm going to have to start playing drafts on the floor. That's where we are now. Not a table in the house. There must be an old poem that starts like that. What I might do is take a photo of my Laurel and Hardy head so that people get an idea of how these things work. They are they're real fabulous craftsmanship. And I think of them in the same era. I mean, the people always go on about the Blue Lady and that in working class homes, but for me, there used to be a large brandy glass with a mouse kneeling inside it and praying for help.
I didn't
And you
love
used to
that.
hook a sort of pottery cat on the lip of it trying to get in, and that was a big thing. And also there was a big Alsatian rampant, which just means standing upright before you start phoning in. And that was also a very popular working class ornament. Any more popular working class ornaments? Please let us know.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
What else is pouring in through our ear trumpet?
Helen from Berkhamsted has sent us in some interesting information about her experience with a Tempur mattress. Do you remember you were just asking about them recently, Frank?
Oh, is this the memory foam?
Yes.
And I asked whether when you'd laid in it one night, your shape was forever imprinted in it, a bit like Harrison Ford in that big piece of metal thing in Star Wars.
And then what if you'd lost weight and then you met a partner after that? And they'd say, what's this in there? This big hole? You'd say, I don't know.
The worst thing would be if you gained weight, though, wouldn't it? You'd have to lie on top of your own template.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't like the telltale cheddar gorge, in the mattress. Hi, Frank, Emily, and
also,
Alan.
when I was a drinking man, and I'll be honest with you, I used to occasionally, in the very, very dark times, would occasionally wet the bed. I wouldn't want to wake up and see a half-filled my own indentation. Half. I mean, that'd be desperate.
Horrible wishing well. Wish I was anywhere but here. Hi, Frank, Emily, and Alan. Oh, sorry, I feel sick. Frank's wishing well in the bed.
I'd call it like me. Sorry, everyone at home. I know a lot of you have got hangovers as it is.
I thought you were going to say, everyone. I know a lot of you have soiled your bed sheets last night.
I wouldn't.
Hi, Frank, Emily, and Alan. Frank asked about Tempur mattresses recently. I would love to enlighten you. We bought a Tempur mattress as, after years of rugby in his youth, my broad-shouldered husband considered, a bit boastful, it would be the best thing for his back ailments. Listen up, Frank, you've got that.
Yeah, see, he's got broad shoulders, but...
Yeah, he watches Bugs Bunny
still
and
got
Loose
a bad
Women.
back.
He loves it. I am slight in comparison and find that getting onto a Tempur mattress is like going to bed on a table. No spring, no bounce. The longer you lie on it, the more of an imprint you make, so that you feel you are lying in a shallow ditch. As this happens, the table-like consistency, apologies, Kath, for talking about tables, becomes more like dough, so that if you try to turn over, you feel your limbs disappearing into quicksand. Contrary to the tone of this email, there is some comfort to be found, however. The real fly in the ointment for me is how the doughy quicksand warms with your body heat.
Can I say that fly in the ointment is an incredibly apposite phrase here, because that's basically what you become by the sounds of it.
As a result, I always have to sleep with at least one limb free from the duvet, whatever the weather, as otherwise the mattress feels like a furnace. Ode for my old box-sprung mattress. That's Helen in Berkhamsted.
Yeah, also I think
who sent that email as Stephen King, I think.
Yes.
Is it, is it like, when people are getting quicksand in films and they have to lie absolutely still or they're swallowed up by it? Do you think it works like that? Because I hadn't thought about rolling over, but of course, once it's got your form, rolling over. I wonder if Anthony Gormley has got one and woke up one morning and thought, if I fill that with metal, get another one.
Maybe we should explain quicksand to anyone born after 1970.
I think it's still... I thought it was a genuine phenomenon, is it not?
Is it?
Well, if anyone wants to let us know, please do.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So, once again, I know I go on about this, but I really appreciate that you guys are still contacting us, even though we're not able to do the show live at the moment. And please keep the stuff coming in, because it is a rich vein.
Mm. Well, we've had... Do you remember we were discussing Bob Ross?
Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting.
Yes. And both Alan and I have watched Bob Ross subsequently, haven't we, Al?
Yeah, my family are big fans of it.
Do you think a lot of Bob Ross's mail went accidentally to Bros? Terrible mix-up. Anyway,
we've had.
In case you haven't, as for anyone who hasn't heard the show for a bit, Bob Ross is no longer with us, but it was a long-running, and I mean long-running, American TV series, which is currently now being shown both on BBC4 and on Vice TV, and it's a man who does the same painting every week.
And we have some explanation for the sort of Bob Ross revival. Paige Barry says Bob Ross is a hipster icon in Portland, Oregon. I have a Bob Ross bobblehead doll that I picked up there. It has a button you push for his famous quotes, #Bob Ross, great hashtag work. And Rick has said...
It doesn't explain... Sorry to interrupt,
Go on.
I'd like to know what his famous quotes are.
So would I, Al.
I think... He quite often says, there's no mistakes, only happy accidents.
Frank Skinner in the bed.
Yeah. He says that thing now, we've got a decision to make now, and it's where you put the first mountain ridge.
Right.
But seeing as it's the same place every painting, it's a similar to this decision to waking up in the morning. But anyway...
I don't think they would have used the moment that I mentioned last week where he just lost his cheery demeanour and said, I'm okay, and then carried on.
But ironically, that's exactly what I would want from the push-button Bob Ross quote.
God, yeah.
Rick Webb has got in touch, though, hasn't he, Al? And, I'm not saying he's giving us a dressing down, but you be the judge. You kind of missed the point of Bob Ross. Ooh.
Oh, well, I hope so.
His raison d'etre was to inspire people to have a go. You too can do this. Yes, sometimes it was repetitive, but he taught techniques, inspired me to pick up a paintbrush during lockdown. Discuss.
Well, that's brilliant. And he could, there's no question that he could do one painting really, really well and continue to do it. It's just that if I had a show where I did the same chunk of stand-up every week, eventually, I hope that people would be getting in touch with radio stations and saying, I think you're missing the point of Frank Skinner. He's making a point about, the 3 R's, repetition, 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 and the endless monotony of modern life. And I would feel that. But who would commission it? That's the question.
They would say his raison d'etre was to inspire people to be a bit of a git.
Yeah, but I'm glad people are obviously enjoying it because they're showing it. And I like, there was a famous episode, famous series of Big Brother where nothing happened. It was really regarded as one of the failed Big Brothers. And I loved it. It was like a Warhol film. It just was people sitting in a kitchen having mundane conversations. And there was something exciting about it. Anyway, we'll end on that. I think people sitting having mundane conversations is probably an apposite. I think I've used the word apposite 4 times today. I'm going a bit Bob Ross in my repetition. Thank you for listening to us. If the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now, go out but stay outside and go into other people's gardens as long as there's only one other household and no more than 6 people. That's my advice.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.